Hi, everybody. Happy and glad to welcome you all to this first episode of the International e-seminars on contemporary issues in media and information literacy, organized in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the FES Declaration on Media and Information Literacy, which was adopted in 2011, 2021. This series is organized by Moulay Ismail University of Meknes and its Faculty of Arts and Humanities and the research laboratory L'Arcigals in French, Laboratoire de recherche en communication interculturelle, genre, art, langue et société, and the research group on intercultural communication, dialogue, and conflict resolution in close partnership with UNESCO. I welcome all the registrants, distinguished attendees, including undergraduate and postgraduate students and scholars and experts who have decided to join us and to attend this celebration, this first episode of the seminars on contemporary issues in media and information literacy. Welcome to you all. I welcome the panelists, speakers. Sarah Kamlish will be the first speaker. I will introduce her briefly. Sarah Kamlish has a PhD in languages and the sciences of language from the University of Sultan Moulay Slimane. She obtained her PhD in 2020. She investigated in her doctoral dissertation the power in new media platforms, a multi-dimensional analysis of WikiLeaks news stories. She has recently joined the College of Technology of Moulay Ismail University of Meknes. Welcome as colleague. In her paper today, she will show the close relationship between journalism literacy and critical thinking. Her paper is titled Developing Critical Thinking Through Journalism. We are happy to have you with us, Sarah. The floor is yours.
All right, so thank you so much, Professor Chouet, for this invitation. I'm very happy to join you. And when we see you just directly, we remember the old days at the faculty in front of you. Do you remember, Hayat, in the course of journalism and media studies?
I do. I am so glad that you have. I am so glad that you have become my colleague now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. The pleasure is mine. I'm very honored. All right, so I don't want to lose much of your time raising the quality of education in Morocco. It was in parallel with the announcement of the 12th United Nations development goals. Yeah, I forgot the name. The United Nations,
development goals, yes.
Yeah, development goals. Quality of education was one of the most important goals that the United Nations aims to achieve throughout nations across the world. The second objective is the policy of language learning and teaching pedagogy, which was, started to open through other domains, and English was linked to many and different disciplines. Again, there was an urgent need to develop this the skills of the 21st century learners. So gathering all these objectives, and while I was reading an article within the English scientific forums, there was an important article written by John Lawrence, a scholar at the University of Oxford. He declared that journalistic skills, and at that time I didn't know what does it mean, journalistic skills. So he named journalistic skills the two major skills, mainly editorials and news stories. He said that if learners could understand the content of journalism, they can easily, it can help them to develop their critical thinking. So it just, the idea struck my my attention, and I wanted to make my research about this topic. So I made the research about how can learners develop their critical.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah, but we lost you. We lost the sound.
Sarah, please enable your microphone. I see that your microphone is mute. We are not hearing you. Sarah, please. Yes.
Right now, do you listen?
Yes, please do not touch your microphone as long as you are speaking.
Okay, no, I did not touch it.
Okay.
Anyway, I think there was a problem of parameters related. I didn't touch anything. So I said that I started explaining the objectives of my research. I said that I have learned an important article within the English Scientific Forum. It was about it was written by John Lawrence, a scholar at the University of Oxford. So he explained in his paper how journalism English and journalistic skills would help learners develop their critical thinking abilities. At that time, I didn't know what does it mean, these journalistic skills. So reading his article, we discovered that journalistic skills are used to refer to the two major journalist English text genres, which are editorials and news stories. So I loved the topic so much, and I wanted to make research to discover whether his claims are true or not. So my MA research was an experimental study on the use of journalistic skills, mainly news stories and editorials, to develop learners' critical thinking abilities. As I said, the objective of my research raised from the call for more quality of education in Morocco with the reform of 2013, and lots of demands were, I mean, urging teachers, labs designers, and all those responsible for taking language-related decisions to increase research related to the development of more quality in education. So I don't want to lose your time. I'll start directly with the journalese English. What does it mean? So journalese English was meant to expand learners' vocabulary skills, develop their learner awareness towards global issues, and maximize their potentials of critical thinking when interacting and reflecting on media content. Media content is used to refer to any context provided through journalism and media studies. Yes. So journalistic skills for my research, as I said, is used to refer to two major journalist texts or journalist genres. Editorials, by way of definition, it is the leading article, which is the opinion of the newspaper, simply written for the understanding of readers, leading them to take decisions on issues being discussed. It's the same problem. The screen cannot be shared. Yes. The strategy is used in text to influence. So why I choose editorials? Because the strategy is used in text to influence people's minds and influence their move actions are so helpful for learners. So understanding editorial text would lead learners to ask questions, develop hypotheses, identify ideological concepts, and make their own synthesis of events. skill number 2, which is news stories. You all know that news stories are basically texts that report on an event to well-informed readers about the whole story. So journalists use the term news stories to refer to the coverage of conflicts, accidents, racial issues, international, issues, and any other aspect of the everyday life. So news reporting itself is the product of a process that involves many and different operating agents without a media institution. So decision-making in newsroom also requires objective deliberations based on institutional agenda. Again, the objective of choosing news stories comes from the need to strengthen the reading and the writing skills. You all know that news stories follows an inverted pyramid format. So when students and learners know the structure and the form of a news story, it directly improves their writing skills and even their own storytelling as well. So concerning critical thinking, I'm trying to make things, more centered. So critical thinking, it is true that it's difficult to define critical thinking just from one scope. So critical thinking by Scriven and Paul, they summarized what is critical thinking as a whole. So it is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information gathered from or generated by observations, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. So I took this definition of Scriven and Paul 1987 to go directly to direct my research. So in my research, I took critical thinking as the ability of learners to analyze information, conceptualize ideologies, synthesize, evaluate information, and most importantly, make reflections based on their own reasoning and synthesis of events. In general, yeah, this was the general, leading points of critical thinking. So concerning my research hypothesis of the research, it was hypothesized that the use of journalistic skills, as I said, news stories and editorials, help learners develop their critical thinking abilities. So this use involves identification of text tones, verification of meaning, exploitation of text, and evaluation of bias within news stories and editorials, and of course, reflection. Concerning the research methodology, as I said, it was an experimental study. So as you know, experimental study, you start with two tests. There was a pre-test to make sure that learners do not know something about these journalistic skills, and there is the experiment. After the experiment, you will find students take the post-test. So in my case, the research was directed to S2 student, S4 students. So basically, I didn't need to make the pre-tests because at that time in 2011, students were introduced to media studies in their third year, in the year of graduation. So basically, I didn't need this pre-test because we assumed that learners didn't know journalistic skills. We directly started with the experiments. The experiment, there was a course schedule. It was divided into, it was scheduled into, I guess 7 to 8 sessions, but due to university demonstrations at that time, the experiments just took an amount of 3 sessions, and we made the post-test. Concerning the research informants, yes, there was 2 groups. As you know, any experimental study have got
Sarah, please, all these details, you can give them in the article when it will be published. Go to the
okay.
to the conclusions and the findings, please.
All right, so I have here the data analysis and interpretation of results concerning the controlled group. There was all the marks were below the average because the content they were not exposed to. Of course, the results of the controlled group is valuable only when the results of the experimental groups are demonstrated. Experimental group, as you will see in the article, and it's very sad that I couldn't share this screen with you, the results, they were above the average. So écarté, all the results were taken through the SPSS, Social Package for Social Sciences. So I'll explain the correlation statistics starting from journalistics and critical thinking. So there was a great correlation between journalistic skills and critical thinking for the experimental group. So l'écart type, as we said, in the social sciences, there was just 1.6 accuracy versus 2.9 for the controlled group. In the SPSS, the best way to depict or to reveal the correlation between two variables is the scattered plot. So when the
Sarah, please.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So the scattered plot, when it is followed this way, which means that the correlation is positive. When the scattered plot is in the reverse, it means the correlation is negative. You will see in the article that the scattered plot, it was directed in the positive side. So by conclusion, the correlation exists between these journalistic skills and critical thinking. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for this highly informative paper. In fact, it is taken for granted that knowing about journalistic styles enhances critical thinking, but it is good, it is excellent that you have conducted the research to prove this. In fact,
thank you very much.
No, it is very important to prove the distance, because when you prove and then when you give the evidence, you encourage teachers to include these particular items from journalism into their curricula in various forms. And you also raise the awareness of students as citizens and as active citizens and as responsible citizens and as citizens involved in the life of their society. They cannot not engage with the mass media. They cannot not be media literate. They cannot not be news literate.
Exactly.
So all these things are these are the very first steps. What is the difference between a news story and an editorial? The news story answers the 5 WH questions plus how, giving you the details, what happened, when did it happen, where did it happen.
It was the first lesson in your program.
And then, but yet, even while giving these, which seem to be perfectly factual, there is no 100% objectivity, and there is no 100% neutrality. Even with while introducing news stories, the news story is presented, as you said, from a particular perspective, depending on the agenda of the organization. And so once we are aware of all these things, we are safe dealing with the mass media. Okay, thank you very much, Sarah.
Thanks.
Now, the discussion and questions will be grouped at the end.
Okay.
Now, the second speaker is Brahim El-Bukhari. Brahim El-Bukhari is author and high school teacher of English as a foreign language, EFL. He is the author of The Dark Days of Our Village and Representation and Resistance, a post-colonial study, to Bowles' Sheltering Sky, and other books. Today, he will explore the way media and information literacy is treated in the Moroccan EFL classroom, investigating the Moroccan official discourse, the curriculum, and selected textbooks. He will also share with us his experience in integrating media and information literacy both in his EFL classes and in Mate Access program. His paper is titled Students as Global Citizens, Integrating Media and Information Literacy in the EFL Classroom. We are eager to learn about your experience. Brahim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So first, let me thank Dr. Shwidrisia for this invitation. It was a great pleasure to meet you again after almost 19 years now. So it was around 2002, 2003. I was a student of yours at the University Moulay Ismail. So it's a very, it's a very nice opportunity to meet again.
What a pleasure.
Thank you. So, and thanks for the organizing committee for the seminar, which is something that we really need, not only as students, but also teachers as our continuing professional development, because it helps us a lot to understand what's going on at the level of theory and so on, so as to bring it into our classroom and to practice. So teaching media and information literacy to access program students and high school students, then lessons learned from this experience and recommendations. Okay, so let's start a definition. This is a definition that I based my, not only my presentation, but my work in teaching media and information literacy. So as you see, this is taken from IFLA. It's the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions. The definition goes as far: media and information literacy consists of knowledge, the attitudes, the sum of the skills needed to know when and what information is needed, where and how to obtain information, how to evaluate it critically, organize it once it is found, and how to use it in an ethical way. The concept beyond communication and information technologies to encompass learning, critical thinking, and interpretive skills across and beyond professional and educational boundaries. Media and information literacy includes all types of information resources, oral, print, and digital. So as you see, this idea of literacy, I focus on literacy. It's not just media and information literacy, but this concept of literacy has to change, because this is what research has shown. It has encompassed the new changes that are happening in our society and in the world in general. So, which means it also includes media and information literacy. Now, in my research and my experience, because I am now speaking about my own experience, students are global citizens. So why? Because of the changes that are happening. So for this global citizenship, they need to participate. But in order to participate, the main channel between our students and the world most of the time is media. So they to have the tools to deal with this. That's why we need to make them aware of, or to know the skills of media and information literacy. So let's look at this quotation from Manish Pathashilat, 2014, which suggests that global citizenship has caught our imagination once again, willingly or unwillingly. Whether we want it or not, it's there. As we are all increasingly interconnected in the globalized world, never before have we seen the kind and scale of exchange among people money, ideas, and information that we see in today's network society, which means it has become something important because we need to include it in our programs or our way of life in general. So for me, I look at it as something that we know life. It's not just at school or anywhere else. Therefore, we need to have media and information everywhere. That's why I tried to do that, teaching Access Program students. Access Program students is a micro scholarship program which is organized by MATE, the Moroccan Association of Teachers of English, and it is also sponsored by, for us in Morocco here, it's sponsored by BCMBC. So it was a chance for me to be a member of the teachers or a teacher among those who are teaching this Access program. Now I will jump to talk to you about my experience before going on to speak about media and information literacy in general in the official Moroccan discourse. So the context and framework. So for why did we teach this media and information literacy? This is the context. So we have enhancement activities. Enhancement activities are certain activities that we use to teach in Access program. They are, it's a kind of parallel activities to the program, to the curriculum, because there are textbooks, but the teacher needs to go beyond textbook to teach other things that students need, especially when it comes to skills, to 21st century soft skills. So we have enhancement activities includes media in general, includes journalism and so on. So we have a lot of things concerning this. We will come to that later on. Then we have creativity and innovation. So it's something that we need. As teachers, we have to be creative. We have to be innovative in our teaching. And we also need to teach creativity and innovation to our students. They have to go beyond the textbook and so on. Critical thinking and critical review, two important things, which is also in the core concepts in media and information literacy. Then we focus on three approaches. So we have project-based instructions, inquiry-based instruction, and task-based instruction. These are the three main components of our program, or the framework goes around these three ideas or these three approaches. Okay. Now the objectives of this is to make sense, or for all students. When we speak about objectives, these are the objectives concerning our students: to know available media forms and information sources, to be able to ask the right questions about when and what type of information that is needed. We have to successfully produce media products and share them with their communities at the local and global levels. We also have to be able to analyze and evaluate information, and to be able to indulge in intercultural dialogue effectively, especially because they are global citizens. So they need to interact with other people around the world. And as I said before, the channel is media and information. So we need to equip them with the tools that they need to participate in global citizenship. As I said, this sums it all. Now, the target skills. So it's the same. Objectives here are related to the target skills. Recognize available media and information products. This is at some elementary levels. So students need to know what type of media that exists, and information products, information sources, etc. Then we have to know when and how to search for information, to create media products like blogs, movies, magazines, magazine articles, etc. Then we have to analyze and evaluate media product information and media products and information sources, critical thinking and critical reading activities. So these are the target skills that we need. Now we move to class activities. Here I will discuss what type of activities that we do inside the classroom so as to teach media and information literacy. So the first category was about different type of media products that are available, which means I give students, most of the time it's a team work. We give students tasks, projects. That's why I say project-based instruction or task-based instruction. Through these tasks or projects, students need to know anything related to media. Sometimes we negotiate with students different things that they want to know about. So we try to give them choices, and students choose what they want to study. We go on for that, either as a task inside the classroom or a project. It can be also inside the classroom or outside the classroom. They come up with presentations by the end of these activities in which they give us different, for example, a student will give us different types of media that they know about. Another one will give us different sources of information and why we should use that type of information. For example, website, dictionary websites, encyclopedias, journalistic articles, etc. So this is one of the activities. The second category is the ability to decipher how media and information sources work. So this is a second scale. We give them work on activities. First, we do some workshops. For example, how to create websites, like using available free websites, hosting systems like Word, Blogger, Wix sites, or Google sites. Then we other students to put their writings. I have some websites, for example, created by students, and most of the time I use this as a motivating factor, because when you ask students just to write something like that, they feel that it's not something active, it's not something they want to do. But when you ask them to write something because they are going to put it in the website and everybody is going to read that, they get motivated. So that's why we opt for this option. The third category is more advanced, and it has to do with students' ability to analyze and look for which sources of information they can trust more than others. For example, this is just an example I did with my students back in 2016. We have some problems at the Sahara, especially the borderline Gargarat, like what happened this year. It happened back in 2016, but not to that extent as it happened in the last in the year. So what I did is I look at the same event through three different media sources or information sources. For example, we look at this event from the eyes of the Moroccan press, the Al Press, and the BBC News Network, World News Network. So videos speaking the same event, three different videos, and students will try to see what's the difference, what are the words that each one of these media uses, okay? So they come up with, to understand, for example, that there are different perspectives from which you can look at when you are listening to some information or when you are dealing with media. Every channel, every source has their own perspective, and hence we come back to objectivity or subjectivity, etc. So there is no purely objective source information. All the time there are subjective things to look at. Okay, another example, this is just another example of some of the activities we do. This was a headline from a local Moroccan online newspaper. The translation of it was as follows: the Moroccan Bad Harry in prison. So this is an activity I gave to first. I asked them to analyze this title. Students didn't believe that this was a really true piece of information, because at that time Badr Hari was very famous and was just started to gain his fame at the international level. But when they analyze the title, they go back to read about the information, they found that Badr Hari was in prison, yes, but he was imprisoned, but just he was visiting prisoners and so on. So this is one of the activities that make students aware of how media works, and they try to come up with ideas to deal with these things, and they learn new tools in order to be able to deal with media and information in general. So for high school, as I said, at the initial documents, most of the time, they didn't mention media and information lit at all. So I have checked all the available documents, but what is mentioned is ICT, the use of ICT in teaching, maybe as a tool to be used by teachers, to be used by students in their learning, to enhance learning, but not as a subject that needs to be studied. Especially for how there is nothing to look at that. What makes things worse is that our textbooks were created in 2007. All the textbooks that we are using today in Moroccan high school, the official books, most of them are created in 2007, which gives us another idea about what type of media and information literacy we can find in these documents. So there is no, I mean, there are no activities, but there are some rare examples, as we will see. This is one of the examples here. So this is a text from Ticket to English, first page 82. So we have a text which is entitled Mass Media Shape Our View of the World. This is a good text. And we have questions, for example, different questions about the text. Mass media are so important, they influence our idea and behavior. So this is a good way of dealing with the media and information literacy in our high school. So we need to have like activities in order to make things, I mean, to help students acquire all the skills that are needed for them when it comes to media and information literacy. Okay, so now I come to lessons learned from this experience. So students are motivated. First, this is something that we notice, and students most of the time, they like to do these activities better than reading the textbook, because they speak English, they learn new things, and they can do a lot with English. So especially things that are personal, as we will see. Students are more active and they like to be challenged. I found this also as a factor that is affecting this experience. They are highly active, they do work. It's not like when you just give them, for example, write an essay on smoking or write an essay on, for example, anything that we have in the program like brand and so on. But when it comes to media and information literacy, they are more active. They feel they learn something personal, something they can actually use in their daily life. So the things that they learn in media and information literacy activities are things that they can use today. They can go home and start to use when they watch television, when they listen to the news, or when they are looking for information. Also, it is relevant to study, work, or simply life in general. So these are some of the lessons we have learned. Also, there are simple ways to integrate media and information literacy into the EFL lessons. We shouldn't wait to find documents, I mean, official documents and so on, but we can use texts, extra texts inside the classroom, as I do most of the time. I give them to the students. We do our reading. We target, for example, critical thinking, critical reading, of different questions that students know, but at the same time, we are doing our job, teaching them the curriculum. So now we come to recommendations. We need professional development for teachers. especially professional development related with media and information literacy, because most of the time there is this lack of information. And this happened to me at the beginning because I used to do things randomly. But when I started reading about media and information literacy and so on, I have been able to context things that I do inside the classroom. Also, the integration, we need to integrate media and information literacy into the from early stages of education. So we shouldn't wait till university, for example. We have to have this at high school, at junior high school, or even at the level of primary school. We need a revision of textbooks to meet the new challenges, especially with the additional units on media and information literacy. We need to fund research about media literacy because this helps to give us theory that we need to use inside the classroom. And we need to promote media literacy in literacy programs. And here, when I say literacy programs, for example, when we go to most of the documents about literacy, we find that they are still focusing on how to read and how to write. But there is no place for what type of media to use, how to deal with information. We don't find that in these programs like the one, for example, the Ministry of Education to help young people who need to know just how to read and how to write. I mean literacy. So why don't we integrate literacy in general and put inside these programs media and information literacy as another asset? And we can start with very small things. It's not all the time. We don't need to include advanced skills from there, but we can just start with knowing we have to have the knowledge about media and information literacy, and then we get more advanced, we can add other things. So I guess that's it. Thank you. Now waiting for questions and comments after when we get to the discussion session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim El-Bukhari, for this highly insightful presentation. I fully agree with each and everything you said. The definition you gave from IFLA is the same that we are adopting, because IFLA is a partner of the UNESCO MLI initiative. All the steps and the projects, they are highly relevant, and they should be included in the curriculum. We, in the UNESCO network of university on media and information literacy and intercultural dialogue, and the UNESCO MLI Alliance on media and information literacy, and the revision, the second edition of the UNESCO MLI curriculum for teachers has been revised. It will be launched soon. We tackled all these issues, and saying that in fact media and information literacy is a necessity nowadays. I even call it a basic human right, because there is a big difference between anyone at any age who is media and information literate and someone who doesn't have any idea at all. So we do believe that it should be included in the curricula, in all across curricula and across age, in all age groups. And I think in particular to all these faculties of science, of economy, all these hard sciences, exact sciences, and all these things, they do need it. We should not only keep it for only faculties of arts and the humanities, and you see journalism and media. As I said, it is a basic human right, and it should each and every citizen should benefit from it. I'm thankful and grateful to you for this presentation, because in fact it has concretized the idea of these international e-seminars, the idea is that to show to people in various jobs in various ages that media and information literacy is not a luxury. Media information literacy is not something abstract that we do research in universities in collaboration with UNESCO. Media and information literacy, it is exactly like critical thinking. It should become a way of being and a way of behaving. We should see its impact in our daily lives, in education, in personal relation, in how you, young people and other age groups deal and interact and engage with media and society. Thank you very much. So the third speaker is Said Azelmad. Said Azelmad is a researcher in governance and public policy. He obtained his doctorate of philosophy in 2020. His PhD dissertation investigated the topic of the e-government, whole of government approach for good governance, the case of the integrated system of expenditure management in Morocco. He has published many articles in the fields of governance and e-governance. In his paper today, he sets a bridge between media literacy, sustainable development, and good governance, taking community radio as a case study. His paper is titled Media Literacy and Sustainability Literacy, the Role of Moroccan Community Radio in the Promotion of Sustainable Governance in Development. We are all ears to discover this new approach to media literacy. The floor is you, Said.
Thank you, Professor Bricia. Thank you for organizing this wonderful webinar, and thank you for summoning up today with such distinguished young scholars discussing the issues of media literacy and sustainable development. And these two topics are the topics of the day. As you named them, they are basic rights, human rights. They are basic human rights that we should sustain and support today. So thank you again for this, for organizing this webinar. Thank you for your passions. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for your encouragement and nice words and your presentation for all of us. So if you allow me, Professor, I can share the presentation with you. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. So as you mentioned, so I am a new researcher in the field of governance and public policy in general. But today I'm trying to find the link between media literacy and sustainability. And I discovered this wonderful topic that deserves to be shared among all the researchers. So the media literacy and sustainability literacy, the role of the Moroccan community radio in the promotion of sustainable governance and development. So media in general, we define media and media in Morocco especially, and lately is often accused for avoiding, critical issues of public policies related to sustainable governance and development, and in which media should play its role as you know, it's designed to awaken, inform, enlighten, and educate, entertain all the Moroccan populace to play the crucial role in the process of participative governance and development. So today, Brahim has spoken about the student as global citizens, and today I'm going to speak about about a certain community which is illiterate, if you want to say, the citizens living in marginalized areas or don't have access neither to education, internet, or information in general. And the media here should guarantee its sphere as a public sphere for this minority. It should educate them and inform them and not disinform them. So this is this is what I'm going to talk about today. In which community radio is still the most popular traditional and digital public service broadcaster that can reach rural, as I said, rural and urban citizens. Not only urban citizens who have access to information, but the people in rural ideas, what they have only the radio, which is a source of information to them. So the presentation or the article of today will question the diversity and plurality of community radio and its endeavors to promote sustainable or sustainability literacy through the whole of society participation. So we will question today the role of the radio and or the literacy by radio and its roles to spread the culture of sustainable development. So, which is a huge role, of course. So, media literacy is sustainability literacy, according to Grissom in his wonderful book. Therefore, the importance of media literacy for sustainable development that does not need further evidence in this era, simply because disinformation always blurs vision. And when the vision is blurred, so there is no sustainable democracy, there is no sustainable, we cannot speak about good governance, we cannot speak about cohesion. So that's why the media literacy is a right, is a necessity here. I called for Grissom in his book, Media and Information Literacy Policy and Strategy Guidelines. He theorizes this issue that a diverse and pluralistic media information, including those of the internet, of course, can produce and is it's a necessity, can produce media and information literate citizens who will play a colossal role in sustainable development and good governance in general. So here I would like to summarize only 4 points which are relevant to the topic. That the media literacy is the development of information through media would enable a wider consultation and the assimilation of the masses to enabling the involvement and participation of all the civic layers in the making of development and governance. Because development or sustainable development is like a big tree that we should all of us water. It's the role of the teacher. It's the role of the peasant. It's the role of the whole of society to participate in the development of the country so that we can live in a welfare society. And this information decreases in citizen engagement, of course, and we should support a sustainable policy for the inclusion of all the stakeholders, citizens, political parties, associations, and syndicates to take part in sustainable governance and decision making. So I would like to mention that in all my writings, I'm trying to support this culture of holistic approach, so that the Western societies have discovered lately. So we cannot create governance, development, economic and social prosperity without the inclusion of the whole society. So everybody from his point, his position should play a role there. Because development, as I told you, is a whole of society goal in which we can deliberate freely regardless of our race, ethnicity, nationality, class, religion, belief, and so on and so on. Why? To produce at the end a sustained literate citizen. We need to produce a sustained literate citizen, a citizen that is aware of the culture of development, of sustainable development, because in order to act in his field of understanding and his experience without expertise and top-down approaches. Because development, as I told you, is a down-top mechanism and not a top-down mechanism. And we should integrate all the ordinary citizens who can understand and feel the need of their territory, geography, better than experts in the center of decision making. Because this goes with, now today we speak about territorial intelligence, and we speak about citizen intelligence. So the territory is intelligent enough to decide which investment can suit its territory to prosper and to develop. So we don't know, now the citizens can, if you take any citizen here or there and ask him what for example, your region needs to prosper, he will say, because he knows his region. So that's why we need to engage the civic engagement. That's why we need to engage the citizen in the process of development through the media. And the media should be a pivotal element in informing and the citizens about what is happening around in this surrounding. So I come back to question the issue of diversity and pluralism of the media outlets, especially the radio. So we mean by diversity broadcasting, it's the way radio channels offer access to the variety of different voices to participate in media outlets and hear their viewpoints on decision-making, governance, and development. And pluralism, it's the way the state guarantees diversity of ownership. So the diversity of ownership, I am trying to indicate that each region has the right for license in broadcasting its problems, its local problems. Because pluralism and diversity in the media literacy is a reflection to pluralism and diversity of ideas and values of political citizen engagement with different languages, races, and cultures to set together the agenda of development together. And this goes hand in hand with the process launched by His Majesty, which is advanced regionalization. Each region has to prosper by its own resources, its own people, its own citizens, its own stakeholders. So the methodology, my research questions in general, does the Moroccan community radio fosters ethics of diversity and plurality? To answer the second question, which is, does community radio engage all the Moroccan citizens in the public policy debate? And to answer at the end the third question, which is more general, does community radio literacy enhances sustainability literacy? Because as you know, most of the commercial radios in Morocco, most of them are concerned about selling the news to the citizens. They are commercial radio. So they are looking for benefits, for money. So that's why they forget this side, this very important side, educating citizens, spreading the culture of sustainability and development at the expense of selling the news and selling commercial news. So I would jump directly to data analysis diversity. So these are the tables are generated from the website of the HACA, the High Authority of Audiovisual Communication in Morocco, which posts every year. I mean, the frequency of gender, for example, diversity by gender participation. We see that there is a weak participation of the women, the voice of the women, vis-a-vis the voice of the males. So the males are dominating the radio channels. So the public deliberation of the media, which should play its role, does not give the right to the women. I mean, to communicate their concerns and to judge the public policy, or to voice their social accountability concerning such, for example, such decision making that concerns the development of the region in general. I have here the bar. I cannot see what's. So the language, you can see the language, Tamazight and Arabic, and so you see that the most of the spoken language in radio mission programs, and so the used language is Arabic, and sometimes it's French, where Tamazight is very big here. You can see that people participate who cannot, for example, speak Arabic and French. You have a problem to participate and to engage and to voice their voice. This is my point of view. Concerning the regions, the participation of the regions in the community radio, you see that some regions, for example, in the regions of Dakhla wa Dahab, you see there is a weak participation of these regions in media outlets, and this causes a problem. So concerning the parties, you can see that Parti de la Justice et du Développement, la Adala wa Tanmiya, is monopolizing, is governing the media outlets. So you can see we have a total of 6 hours per month, which is logical. So I try to collect all the important talk shows that communicate sustainable development, that try to spread this culture of sustainable and debate governance and democracy and sustainable development. And they have discovered that there are only few programs which are مع الحدث, the morning de Momo, صباح الخير, يبلادي, شد ليمن, نهار جديد, ديكريباج. But Preparedness is the most program that discusses the issues of sustainable development. And you can see the languages, for example, Darija, French, Darija, mixed with French. So there's this mix of language between French and Darija, where, for example, the people speaking Tashhid and Taifit and Tamazight, you cannot participate in these programs. I will jump. I will not speak about pluralism of the radio stations, we will jump directly to the discussion. Discussion is that we need to promote diversity, especially of تنازيغ الطائفي and تشريحية media outlets, encouraging the participation of other minority languages, which means that if we want a real development, a real sustainable development, we should include all the voices in media outlets. And media, when I say media literacy here, I mean media should play its role as a public sphere. I mean, to accommodate, to welcome all the voices to participate on it. And I mean, is it double-edged weapon? It should give access, it should give the voice to the voiceless. I mean, to hear these strategies, to hear visions of other people from different regions in Morocco. And we should oblige, I mean, the state should think about obliging broadcasters to be politically impartial, I mean, not to give the voice to a certain minority on the expense of a certain minority. And we should set the limit on the amount of advertising, which is very important, because sometimes, as I told you, these broadcasting channels, they look to sell the news, they look to make money more than sell and inform people about sustainability in general, and spread this culture of sustainability literacy among the citizens. We should encourage for the inclusion of locally produced programs. Each region should discuss its sustainable governance and decision-making through its local radio stations, which means we are calling for more radios to be diverse and more pluralistic, if you want, and that goes hand in hand with the advanced regionalization, which is now a process in Morocco. We should offer more radio licenses, increasing the number of regional radio stations, and we should, and the radio talk shows must empower women and marginalized communities, especially those people living in the mountains, living in marginalized areas who do not have access to information. We should empower them and give them the voice to speak about the strategies and to show their agreement or disagreement about certain decision makings happening in their local community. And in this way, we can rise and we can empower sustainable development in general. Promoting a fair and diverse intervention on radio talk shows, as I told you. And at the end, community radio is a plethora for all the citizen political parties, associations, syndicates, in which all of these stakeholders should have a part in sustainable governance and decision-making towards a sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Said Azelmad, for this presentation, which puts, in fact, the hand and which directs our attention to a key issue or key issues in media and information literacy. You are fully right in all that you have stated, talking about the necessity of diverse and pluralistic media, talking about the necessity of having a holistic approach, talking about the necessity of involving all citizens in the process of development. And in fact, the direction should not be always from top to down. we should go to the town and listen to the people, and there should be an interaction between top down and down top. Radio, we have observed, you see, that radio has come back to the scene in Morocco in the last few years. Community radio is to be reinforced and to be supported. Public service media have an obligation to honor vis-a-vis the citizens, and they have a social responsibility to honor, because, as you rightly stated, the direction to maximize profit and it is profit-oriented and advertising-driven does not leave much for the citizens, the development of the citizen and the development of the whole society. So many ideas to be incorporated. Last but not least, the representation in media, in language, in projects of all the minority languages. We should think all together of how to translate all this information that we have into Amazigh, so that it can be helpful to large numbers of Moroccan citizens. We should support community radio, as you have rightly stated, that there are segments of society that are completely illiterate. They do not know. They do not have even the basics in a writing, and so the media should work as developmental. They should work as media for development of citizens, development of the country, and bring into them education and the main literacies. Sustainability literacy, that is a key issue. We have to know how to be sustainable, how to create development, and how to keep sustainability in development, each from our own perspectives and places. And we have to help these people who are illiterate, who are disadvantaged, to get their voices heard and to participate in society. Thank you very much, Saeed, for this insightful presentation. Now, the fourth speaker is Hayat Duhan. Hayat Duhan is a PhD candidate at Free University of Berlin, Germany. She is a Marie Curie Fellow and researcher at the German Institute of Global and Area Studies. Her research interests revolve around the intersection between media and culture. Her paper today deals with the digitization of mainstream Islam, triggered by the lockdown of mosques due to the COVID-19 pandemic, taking Moroccan Muslim diaspora in Germany as a case study. Her paper is titled Media Information Literacy in Practice, Media Projects as an Example. This is a new topic, investigating a direct consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic in the religious sphere. We are glad to have you with us today, Hayat. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this introduction. First of all, I'd like to express my deep gratitude to Professor Dr. Chouet for inviting me to take part in this seminar. It's such a great pleasure to reconnect with my professors and colleagues at the University of Moulay Ismail. So now, as Sarah has mentioned earlier, I feel now very nostalgic to the old days and lessons, especially as Sarah mentioned. Now I remember the classes that we took with you, Professor, and not only media but also leadership. And what I like about all those, about Professor Chouet is that she doesn't, she only teaches courses that she's passionate about, and we could feel her passion. And now she's not only a professor, but an advocate and the leader as well. So thank you very much for this nice, introduction and this opportunity. Now, please let me, I will try to share my screen. Am I allowed to share it? Okay. Oh, can you see my screen? Can anyone please give me a sign if you can see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because once I share the screen, I won't be able to see the faces and also the chat. So as I said, so my objective this morning is to share with you some insights or reflections related to MIL in the light of the research project that I am currently part of. To do that, I was planning to start with an introduction to MIL, but I think my colleagues have already done that, so I will skip that. And I will move on directly to introduce the MEDA project that I'm part of, and then see how this project has been walking the MIL talk. Then I will zoom into my research as an example of research projects within the MEDA circle. So please, if you have any questions, comments, or even criticism, please feel free to jot them down, and I'll be happy to take them afterwards. So I will just skip the first part and move to the second part, which is about MEDA. So the MEDA project, or Mediating Islam for Digital in the Digital Age, is an intersectoral, interdisciplinary, and international research project that aims to advance research on Islam. It brings together 15 early stage researchers, including myself, in social and human sciences, with the aim of grasping the impact that digitization and digital media has or have on various aspects of Islam. So these are the ESRs. They are coming from various cultural backgrounds. We're talking about Morocco, Germany, Italy, Pakistan, Iran, Lebanon, Egypt, and the US. And they are also coming from various disciplines, including media studies, anthropology, history, Islamic studies, etc. So the MEDA project is basically interrogating the relationship between media and religion. And the project hypothesis is that we are witnessing a radical change in Islam, and therefore it rests on the premise that digitization and technological innovations are having a tremendous influence on various aspects of Islam that deserve to be studied from a variety of perspectives, of course. So why digitization or digital media? I don't think anyone in this room would ask this question, given the undeniable and unprecedented impact of digitization that digitization has on all aspects of our life. And just like academia, now we are all sitting in one room discussing media information literacy, religion also is no exception. So why Islam as a major theme in a European project? I think that the project assumes that the rapid transformation of Islam in the public sphere has kind of resulted in the super visibility of Islam around the globe. And now Islam is no longer a regional phenomenon, but it's something that's visible to all over the world, including Europe. And of course, no one can deny that media, particularly digital media, have played a leading role in highlighting and increasing the visibility of Islam. And of course, I'm not discussing whether this visibility or the place of or the image of Islam is positive or negative in the media, although it's most of the time negative. But here I can just give you two extreme examples. So consider, for instance, how ISIS or Daesh have used social media to scare ordinary people by releasing threatening videos. On the other hand, or the other side, we can also think of Western terrorists and how they have used media to span their anti-Muslim sentiment and Islamophobic ideas. So, and this is exactly and actually where MIL, or media information literacy, comes into play and becomes very and more significant, because the more we educate people how to use different media, how to be critical thinkers, how to evaluate the information they found in the media, how they can detect any media biases, the more we teach people how to do that, especially the young generation, the more likely we would diminish the power of extremists, wherever they are. Because we should be aware that we are now living in a highly mediatized world, which means that data are available everywhere. And it's very simple to access data and information. And ideas also travel very quickly, like in no time, no matter how destructive or extreme these ideas could be. So now I'm going just, and as I said, the media project is looking at the relationship between media change and sociocultural change, and mainly with a focus on the religion. So it's mainly looks at different or tries to answer different questions that you can see on the slide. But my research is mainly situated in the first one, as I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. So here I would like to move to say how the media project, as an example, has been actually walking the MIA talk. And to be honest, like, although we have never discussed MIL as a concept within the media project, but when I was invited to take part in this panel, I was reflecting on how the project has been using or actually fostering MIL principles. And here I would like to say that as ESRs, or early stage researchers, or PhD students, we have been encouraged not only to research various topics related to digitization and digital media and religion, but also to learn how to use media, how to get the best out of media, and to use it to produce knowledge, disseminate knowledge, and use it for different research purposes. So to be more practical, so in more explicit terms, here are some examples of how the project was fostering the principles of MIL. So first, in terms of access, the project has ensured that all researchers or all the ESRs have the technical support and devices to conduct their own research. And here I'm talking about devices, softwares, technical assistance, and of course, also they have been facilitating our access to different libraries and archives, depending on each one of us, depending on the focus of our research. The second point is training. Training has been an integral component in the media project. And here, when I say training, a lot of training and workshops are scheduled for all of us, depending on our research projects. And these trainings and workshops are very closely related to media and media use. So they are enhancing media and information literacy in different ways. While some trainings are more academic, such as online ethnography, how to use media to manage data, etc. Other training and workshops are not academic at all, so they are mainly media oriented. And here I can give you two examples. The first one is filmmaking, and some people would wonder, like, what does filmmaking have to do with the research and researching Islam, etc. But we are supposed to take this training so that we can be able to use films to disseminate our knowledge. I know it's something which is not familiar in the higher education and research, but it's something creative and innovative. The ultimate goal is to reach out to various audiences. And as a researcher, our job is not only to produce research, but this research should reach out to other people. And one way to do that is to use different media. And this is where media and information literacy comes into play. Another kind of training is data journalism. So data journalism is a workshop that we are going to have in partnership with Al Jazeera Media Institute. Maybe it's going to take part in sometime, I think September or October, next September, in Doha, in Qatar. The third point is awareness. Of course, the project management has always been aware of the importance of raising our consciousness and awareness at different levels, including, the importance of developing a career plan, thinking of networking activities, and also supporting us by making partnerships, not only with academic institutions like universities, research institutes, publishers, etc., but also with non-academic institutions like media institute, museums, NGOs, etc. So, and of course, this cannot be done without the help of media. The last point is about, or the fourth point is about knowledge. And here, when I say knowledge, I don't mean only knowledge, knowledge production, but also knowledge dissemination. Because, as I said earlier, our job is not only to produce knowledge, but also to disseminate it, to make it, as you say, one of our colleagues has talked about sustainability. So you have to disseminate this knowledge to different groups and different members in the society. So apart from the fact that we are supposed to produce our research and also publish it in an open access regulation according to the EU European Union regulations to open access, we are also encouraged to think of different ways to reach out to various audiences, as I mentioned earlier, depending on our research topics. Of course, we need to think of various forms of media content, because when we talk about media and information literacy, we're not talking about how to use media, how to analyze, but also how to produce it, how to create media content, and how to share it, how to take part in the public sphere, etc. So again, here where the role of media and information literacy comes into play and comes into a real practice. Of course, I can give you some examples, maybe if you are interested during the Q&A. Now I will move on to talk about my research as an example of research topics that are being researched during among the media circle. So as you all know, almost like this time last year, the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic has forced many countries to impose lockdown measures. And here, as you can see, the mosques are just empty. So this affected all aspects of our lives, and including religious spaces and houses of worships and mosques in general, and all over the world. So like everywhere, local mosques here in Germany had to close their doors, had to suspend all their religious activities offline, in the mosque itself. And as a result, unlike in Morocco, here mosques in Germany and in other European countries, they have resorted to new and digital media to as an alternative way to stay in touch with the local community. And during this time, it was observed that several mosques have used social networking sites like Facebook to enhance their online presence and to stay in connection with the Moroccan Muslims in general here during the lockdown, especially during Ramadan, with the emergence of Ramadan. And some of them have actually broadcast their Friday sermon, Khutbat al-Jumu'ah, for the first time on their Facebook page or their Facebook account. And here I can show you like a couple of examples that examples of posts that I found on the Facebook page of one of the mosques I was observing. The posts reflect how the mosques have used this platform. Facebook very creatively, like they use Facebook and also Zoom to maintain their various religious activities that they used to do in previous Ramadans, offline, but now they try to maintain it and do it online. And examples of these activities are religious lectures or durus diniya, during Ramadan. We have Quran recitation, tilawat al-Quran, and religious education, of course, teaching Quran or teaching Arabic, as you can see from the post on the right. So accordingly, so I found these media practices very interesting and very significant to research, especially that I was already during that time I was thinking of a research topic that I can work on. So accordingly, the goal of my research is to investigate the mediatization of Islam in diaspora, with a focus on the impact of digitization on how religion is actually perceived and practiced. And here I'll focus mainly on the modes of communication and expression, especially by using digital media. Accordingly, the objectives of my current study, because as I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, this research is in progress. So I started only last year, so it's not it's something that is still in progress. So accordingly, the objective of my study are twofold. First, to explore the media uses of the target community. And here when I say the target community, I mean the Moroccan Muslim community in the diaspora. And of course here I distinguish between two groups. I mean the group of people who are in the mosques, those who are leading the mosque, including the imam, the person who is in charge of any media platforms, anyone who is involved in the management of the mosque. And the second group is like ordinary people, like normal ordinary people. And here when I say ordinary, it's not an adjective to underestimate, I mean this group, but rather just to show or to say that these are not experts, they are not involved in the management of the mosques. So that's the first objective. The second objective is to analyze and examine the impact of these media uses and practices on how religion is actually perceived and practiced. So as you can see, these objectives were translated into two straightforward research questions. So no need to read them. So you can see them on the slide. So to answer these questions, of course, I have to rely on literature, and I will draw mainly on three kinds of literature. First, media audience research, mediatization research, and digital religion research. For the media audience research here, of course, I'm going to use it to contextualize my study, but I have certain reservations that maybe we can raise during the Q&A. But what I need to focus here or to highlight is that I'm approaching my topic or my study from an ethnographic aspect. So I'm doing it like ethnographically speaking, not I'm focusing on qualitative aspects of my research. For the mediatization research, of course, I'm going to use it because it allows me to relate media change to change that exists in society. So, and here, when I say I focus on mediatization research, because I'm exploring the Moroccan Muslim community's media uses and how this affects religion. So this line of literature allows me to bridge the gap between a change in media, digital media, and change in religion. And here, of course, I'm focusing on, of course, mediatization research can be done in different ways, but I'll be approaching it from a social constructivist and qualitative approach. Maybe if you want, we can discuss that also later on. Digital religion research, of course, is another important line of literature or debate that exists that I will draw on. And here, the debate actually discusses the relationship between the religion and the cyberspace. I mean, particularly how digital media and the internet have accommodated, mediated, and shaped various communities' experiences. And of course, here I'm referring particularly to the theory of RSST, or Religious Social Shaping of Technology, developed by Campbell in 2017. So that was briefly about the theoretical framework. Now I'll just, I know I'm running out of time, and that's why I will move on to the methodology. Regarding my study, as you can see, the study is mainly qualitative and exploratory in nature. This implies that the study doesn't start from any preconceived ideas, frames, or hypotheses, but rather attempts to get deeper and reliable insight about the target community's use of these digital media, especially that it was not like the pandemic has has arrived. I mean, suddenly mosques have never been, I mean, so close to digital media, etc. So I would like to know more about this at the local level, at the grassroots level. So for this reason, the ethnographic approach seems to be the most or the best methodological option as a way to see, to study the phenomenon from the eyes of the participant. But given the nature of the topic, neither classic ethnography nor online or virtual ethnography alone could be sufficient to capture the overall picture of how this community used the media. That's why I was inspired by the multi-sited ethnography developed by Marcus, 1995, as a way to look at both online space and the offline space. And of course, here, this implies that I will be alternating between Facebook or, I don't know, WhatsApp, Zoom, Instagram, between all these online platforms, and of course, between the offline space, I mean, the mosques and the community in general. For this reason, I'm not approaching the internet as a culture on its own. I mean, not as a space which is separate from the rest of the world, but mainly as a cultural artifact, by meaning that I'll be using it like as one space which is part of a bigger socio-cultural context. For the data collection, in the light of the current circumstances, I'll be of course using online ethnography, offline ethnography, and qualitative interviews. But given the current situation, the pandemic, and here in Germany, we are also still in lockdown. So I was obliged to start with the online space. And I used online ethnography first as a starting point, because I can do it from my room. So I use it as a starting point in the data collection process by observing the online activities and content published on the mosques' online platforms, especially websites and Facebook. And this offered me initial insight about how some mosques are already using and these platforms, and what kind of content they share on their platforms, etc. Later on, I'm expected to do offline ethnographic fieldwork once this corona nightmare is over, hopefully soon, fingers crossed. As per the interviews, I'm trying to reach out now to the mosques and interview some of the people who are willing to participate in the study. I'm hoping that I will be able to talk to various actors, including imams, persons in charge of the media contents, the managers, the head of the associations, etc. And on the other hand, at a later stage, I will be interviewing also ordinary Muslims to see how they are also using media, and so that I can compare between the two groups. These are just some preliminary findings that I could come to based on my online observation. Of course, the various mosques that I have observed, they converged in certain points, but also they diverged in others. So concerning points of convergence, they all have some kind of online presence online. So at least all of them have websites, and most of them use other media, but some use, for example, Facebook more, others use WhatsApp, etc. WhatsApp is also common for all of them, but they use it for different purposes. For the modes of communication, most of them rely mainly on offline, face-to-face communication, but once the Corona era came, they all moved to online, online platforms so that they can stay connected with the community. For concerning their perception of new media, they all have positive, perception and attitudes towards new media, but they are not using it much because of certain challenges, especially in terms of funding, like voluntary. They don't have volunteers and experts who can manage this online content. Maybe something that you don't know about here, the context in Germany, that most mosques, they are not funded. It's not like in Morocco when Wizarat al-Awqaf is taking care of everything. Here, it's mainly the community. And apart from the imam who is paid for doing his job, all other people are just volunteering. And you know how difficult to maintain this volunteering work. Concerning the points of divergence, of course, they use different media and for different purposes, something that I will elaborate on as the research goes on. For the online content on the social networking sites, mainly Facebook, they diverge completely on how they publish in terms of language. Some use mainly German, others use mainly Arabic, some mixture of both, etc. Some, for example, published only religious content. Others use other things like political, governmental related posts, etc. And of course, there were many initiatives, media-related initiatives and practices that emerged during the pandemic. I know I'm already beyond my time, so I think I will leave it here. And of course, if you're interested to know more about the media project as a whole or my research as it develops, I invite you to visit these websites and social media platforms. And I also have a small announcement that there is a MEDA in his summer school, which is funded by the program, and I think the deadline is next week. So if anybody who is interested to apply, you are welcome to do so. Thank you very much, and looking forward to the Q&A for more discussion.
Thank you, Hayat. Thank you for this new topic, new challenges. The first thing, I'm glad to see all the conversion elements between the MLL Alliance and the MEDA. Maybe we can launch a collaboration between MEDA today.
Sure, why not?
between the UNESCO MLI Alliance and MEDA, as we are working on in fact on the same things and issues, and this is through collaborations and networks that we will be able to reach maximum of people, to engage them with the media and their societies, and to disseminate discourses of peace and development. You raised so many important things, including filmmaking and data journalism. Data journalism is of extreme importance because we are facing a real trouble and problems on how to interpret data, how to make sense of statistics. And this should be a key issue in media and information literacy. I wish you good luck. You can count on our support if you need any support while conducting your research PhD.
Thank you very much.
So now a last speaker, we have bypassed the time allowed. Hannan Abul Razi is a high school teacher and a PhD candidate at Ibn Tufayl University. Her research interests revolve around social media, public communication, and public relations. She is investigating in her PhD dissertation the practice of public relations in Moroccan politics, taking the Party of Justice and Development as a case study. In her intervention today, she will tackle the epidemic in Moroccan social media and the challenges of the crisis communication management. Her paper is titled Moroccan Social Media Platforms and COVID-19 Misinformation and Disinformation. This is a topic of high relevance to all of us. We are happy to have you with us today, Hannan. The floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see you again, dear professor. And it's really an honor to participate in this great events on first international e-seminar on contemporary issues in media and information literacy. I would like to thank Professor Schwitt for providing us with this opportunity to share our papers with great scholars and experts in the field of media information literacy. So thanks a million, dear professor. Briefly, I will share my screen. Okay. Could you see my screen?
Not yet.
No, no,
Could
no.
you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay. Private. I'm sorry for wasting your time, all of you.
Well, it's all right. If you have difficulties, please go ahead without sharing the screen. It's all right.
Okay. So I will briefly go through a short introduction of my presentation, research problem, and rationale behind conducting this research paper, the methodology, research findings, discussion, limitations, recommendations, and the conclusion. So my presentation today is about Moroccan social media platforms.
Hannan. If you can only play your presentation as it is normal on your screen, then you share the screen and you click the button, share the screen. You open first the presentation on your laptop.
Okay, and I'm using my smartphone, not my laptop.
Okay, nice. I see. Okay, thank you.
So everything is on my phone, my smartphone. So I try. Can I try for the last time? The last try.
Please go ahead. We are short of time. Normally we should have finished by 11:30. Please.
Okay, that's fine. So disinformation has become a serious virus when it is hazardous to public's health. So fake news and misinformation during COVID-19 health crisis are rampant on social media. Therefore, believing in rumors can really cause significant harm. So I will move to a short introduction. COVID-19 pandemic has been accompanied by a massive infodemic, as the World Health Organization call it, and an overabundance of disinformation that makes it hard for people to find trustworthy sources and reliable guidance when they need it. So young Moroccan internet users resort to social media for their news and easily fall prey to the misinformation and fake news they encounter online. When it concerns public health, disinformation can turn into a lethal weapon. So this is further exacerbated at the time of COVID-19 pandemic. So as a short review of the literature, just I will quote a great Moroccan researcher, Mr. Alami, 2020. He said, in Morocco, the mainstream media have not succeeded in exposing false claims and fake news by subjecting them to rigorous fact-checking. Some fact-checking experiments have been launched, but have not made much impact. For him, the only strategy that Moroccan authorities resorted to reduce the spread of disinformation on social media is that they responded by initiating a crackdown, targeting people who have spread false information on 20th March. At least a dozen people have been arrested and prosecuted for spreading false news under this measure. While social media have promised to detect and label posts and contain misleading information related to COVID-19, they haven't stopped the search. So it has been shown that disinformation and in previous studies that disinformation and misinformation thrive in health crisis, as past experiences of disinformation concerning like Ebola and other viruses, for instance, have demonstrated. So this is the RESTA 2020. So now my research problem is that young Moroccan social media users have been consuming fake news about coronavirus. So which has been especially prevalent on the most popular platforms such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, and other social networking sites. Moroccan mainstream media failed to debunk misinformation by subjecting them to rigorous fact-checking experiments. So that's the real problem. So lack of media information literacy research. This is really one of the most important issues in media information literacy that needs further research studies and investigation. So, and lack of forms of crisis audits and crisis planning. Moroccan social media are ill prepared for crisis manual and conducting crisis training and research. My research paper focuses on the following research questions. How well do we understand the interplay between social media and the spread of disinformation during COVID-19? Who is responsible for all those misleading posts shared on Moroccan social media? What are the strategies that can be adopted to reduce the amount of misinformation we are seeing on social media? What principles and strategies should regulators teach young people to combat the infodemic and help enhance media information literacy? So the methodology in this research paper, I resorted to one research method, so which is the qualitative method. As for the data collection, semi-structured interviews are preferable in exploratory research like this one, wherein the purpose is to gain an understanding of spreading an online misinformation in the age of COVID-19 pandemic, and how Moroccan young people have dealt with it. So these semi-structured interviews have been conducted online via Google Meet and Zoom, using video conferencing among 12 young Moroccan social media activists and communication professionals. So for the sample, purposive sampling techniques is used to target the desired population and pick a small number of cases that yield the most information about the disastrous cumulative effect of spreading misinformation on social media platforms during coronavirus health crisis. So the data analysis, this research paper is concerned about conducting thematic analysis on semi-structured interviews data. Data analysis involves collecting open-ended answers, data based on asking general questions and developing analysis from the information supplied by the participants of this study. So what are the major findings of this research paper? So trying to answer the first two questions, how well do we understand the interplay between social media and spread of disinformation during COVID-19? And who is responsible for all those misleading posts shared on Moroccan social media platforms? So interviewees agreed on the idea that, I will quote them, that anyone can produce any content on social media, be it a video, image, or text with selective editing. So it is important to bear in mind that the production value doesn't translate to the ideas in the content having merits. According to another research participant, I'm quoting him, it is almost impossible to determine exactly who is responsible for all those misleading posts shared on Moroccan social media. There are many micromedia sites on the internet, including many publications that are rather funded. So teaching young people about how micromedia and media operates is valuable. So during crisis situations such as COVID-19 health crisis, there has been an increased need for reliable information. Therefore, the weakness of the mainstream media, which are not capable of meeting the Moroccan needs, the Moroccan citizen needs for reliable information, is partly to blame for spreading misinformation on social media platforms. So media information literacy is not only about how to use the computer and do an internet search, it also involves helping young Moroccan people to deal with disinformation in crisis situations and realize that anyone can put up a very official looking websites. The problem is that these websites may not masquerade as a high credible sources that have been spreading misinformation about COVID-19 health crisis. So I will move to another research question. What are the strategies that can be adopted to reduce the amount of misinformation we are seeing on social media? So one of the Badin social media activists states, I'm quoting him, social media are exploited to promote their personal web pages. Another social media activist claims he has seen fake profiles posting news about COVID-19 that didn't exist in reality, obscene comments and ego clashes on Facebook. Other participants state that we are seeing COVID-19 is primarily misinformation. People are looking for information about the disease, treatments, latest developments, and sharing what they find. But the intent is usually to try and help their friends and loved ones just to stay informed and stay safe. So Moroccan mainstream media failed to stop rumors, fake news, misinformation, and cannot really and subject them to rigorous fact-checking. So this is a real challenge for Moroccan mainstream media. In an interview, we state that although some fact-checking experiments have been launched, they have not been stopped. Dissemination of fake news about COVID-19 health crisis and have not had made much impact. So on March, the authorities, members of the governments responded by initiating a crackdown targeting people who have spread false information. So participants said at least a dozen people have been arrested and prosecuted for spreading false news under this measure. So other research questions: how do young Moroccan people deal with disinformation, online disinformation in the age of COVID-19? What principles and strategies should regulators teach young people to combat infodemic and help enhance their media information literacy? So as social media professional and activists argues, what we badly need to do in the age of COVID-19 crisis situation is to improve the average person's journalism literacy. Try to teach people that there are those kinds of low credibility sources that spread fake news online, and therefore they have to be careful. According to an interviewee who is a communication expert in PR, we have seen some recent studies indicating that if you tell the user what they are seeing might be from low credibility sources, they become much more sensitive to such things. They are actually less likely to share those articles or links. So getting accurate and authoritative information in front of the public in such health crisis situations is really a critical issue that needs further research studies and investigation. So in fact, research findings which are presented in this research paper reveal that social media platforms overwhelmingly spread misinformation about COVID-19 as opposed to accurate contents because of the lack of consultancy experience of senior crisis managers. The research results also found that some of the official websites both were acting as low credibility sources to amplify misleading messages. Therefore, one of the missed issues and the most critical aspects in the research area of media information literacy is the management of crisis of disinformation and crisis communication management during crisis situations on media platforms. This includes careful selections of spokespeople or spokesperson, which is one of the most important decisions in the effective management of any crisis, and it is basically based on consultancy experience of senior crisis managers, or what we can call public relations practitioners. So as for the recommendations of my research paper, one of the key issues that are ignored in media information literacy is resorting to public relations professionals, all these crisis managers and communication experts in the field to limit the spread of misinformation and or disinformation and rumor, fake news on social networking sites or on social media in general. So another important thing that really attracts my attention during my conducting my research paper is crisis preparedness. In fact, crisis preparedness is vital to effective crisis communication management. In other words, a crisis needs to be identified first before it happens. When it does, that does not get out of control. So improving the average people's journalism, media literacy, information literacy, and most importantly, preparing them for coping with crisis situations costs time, money, and energy. So even when public authorities, journalists, and social media activists are urged to communicate about its health crisis situation via social media platforms, they fail because they don't resort to experienced crisis management counselors. So health communication has to be based on scientific information, statistics, research studies, and facts. And speaking precisely because accuracy is of paramount, is very important. So we cannot deny that what members of the governments and health public figures ignore is effective communication with their citizens. So most of the time, we face many challenges because of their feedback, because of their the way they manage crisis communication. So the delay of spreading the information, the lack of empathy on the part of the prime minister, for example, have caused many problems. And made many Moroccans angry about this thing, their illogical decision making. So the kind of communication is very often and based on top-down approach. So this is the main point I would like to share with you, is that members of the governments, the only type of communication they resort to and they use is top-down approach. So they don't listen to the public's feedback, analyze it, and try to find mutual solutions and resolutions between the citizens or the publics and the governments. So that's why we need public relations practitioners who are skilled people. They got their degrees and they are very professionals in communicating messages on both sides, from the government side and the citizen side. So the challenge for public health figures and their spokespeople today is how to update their communication style to communicate authentically and transparently while retaining that commitment to accuracy. So accuracy and truthfulness is what's really needed during any crisis situation, and COVID-19 is no exception. Conclusion. Crisis communication management during COVID-19 is one of the most critical aspects of modern communication in general, and media information literacy in particular. So effective management effective crisis management or during COVID-19 pandemic may limit the spread of misinformation and fake news and rumors, and protect the society and its publics and its public authorities, their reputations, and at the same time salvage their very existence. So the spread of misinformation and news in the new communication era is well illustrated by a huge number of low credibility websites and sources, media platforms, and social networking sites that are followed by millions of Moroccans and followers of those social networking sites. So the last point I want to add is that one of the main strengths and weakness of social media platform is that they are very difficult to censor. So this, however, they are highly effective in spreading and information and informing people. Therefore, young Moroccan internet users and activists are encouraged to think before sharing anything, and try to really establish a kind of mutual understanding and creates like high credibility sources or websites on social media. So the limitations of my study, I forget the limitations. So this research has several limitations. Of course, we cannot say that studies may not have limitations, but they do have.
Well,
so
thank you. Thank you very much, Hannan. Abul, Razi, you can mention the limitations in the research article to be published.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor.
Graceful and thankful to you. We cannot not agree with you. Insightful presentation, and this is the problem in during the COVID-19 at the political level. All political figures, especially in our country, have shown poor leadership and poor communication skills. And the problem of management of crisis, it is serious. people and politicians and those in power and advocacy groups, they were not prepared and they did not know how to handle it. And you are fully right when you said that we had two viruses, the actual virus, the COVID-19, and the virus of the disinformation. We are near to the infodemic. We are near to get rid of the pandemic, but much is still to do for eradicating the infodemic and disinformation and fake news and the use of social media to harbor all these things. As to Hayat Duhan, the extremists and the radicalists, they have used the social media to radicalize. Now it is up to us to use the same social media to de-radicalize the people and to enlighten them. And media information literacy is very powerful and helpful in this regard. Well, I'm sorry, I will not allow time for discussion because we will be cut. We have 45 minutes excess to our scheduled time. We can continue the discussion in our, you see, social media networks. Thank you all. I am very proud of you all for making this first panel, this first seminar, international seminar on contemporary issues in media and information literacy. We did discuss contemporary issues. We did discuss innovative issues in media and information literacy. We believe in you, and we believe in the what you can bring as knowledge and as solutions to us. You youth, young people, you are our present and you are our future. Together, we will be able to make the positive transformation in the world. Thank you all.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you, Professor.
Thanks to all the attendees. I'm sorry not to allow time for discussion because we have no time left. See you in the second edition of the International seminars on contemporary issues in media.
Congratulations, Professor. Congratulations.
You made this. You made this success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Professor. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day.